Holy freaking frustration. The dog interrupted my video like 3 times, and then I just made a really good video, but I never hit the record button. Darn it. I hope I can remember what I said, because it was some good stuff. Anyways, is it recording? Yeah. Day 5 of Day 5, take 10. Day 5 of 100 days to finding my self-worth. And so, hello, my name is Dawn. I'm trying to make it like a professional video. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Join me if you would like to join me in my 100 days to finding self-worth. This is day 5, but no, seriously, please join me. I think that most of us that are lacking in self-worth, self-love, self-value have suffered trauma and abuse. And I'm going to talk about kind of a triggering topic, which is narcissistic abuse. And it's triggering for me, not only because I've lived through it, but because I'm very spiritual, and in the spiritual community, people talk a lot about projection and reflections, and I do completely believe that the inner core of every being is a beautiful light and just pure love. I do also think that it becomes very insulated by trauma and abuse. And I think that, in childhood, mostly is where these patterns stem from. And then we just keep perpetuating them. It's like a self-prophecy. We keep repeating these patterns that we learned from our childhood abuse. But, narcissists have gone through trauma in childhood, and I think when people go through trauma in childhood, they take the split from secure to either narcissistic behavior, or what they'll call an empath, or codependent, or self-love deficiency, the doormat. So trying to break that shit. Been working hard. I've really overcome a lot of that. But so it's like hard to call out the behavior of the narcissistic abuse without calling out the abuser. And I know, and I love, and I pray for every human being on this earth. But staying in relations with toxic, dysfunctional people is not being loving, is not being spiritual, is not being righteous. It is actually enabling abuse. It is actually, if we could get everyone to disengage from narcissistic people, they would have to self-reflect, which they're incapable of doing. And, they would have to look at that shit and resolve it instead of constantly projecting it out onto others. But just to talk a little bit about what narcissistic abuse does to their victims is it's a lot of devastating damage. It causes a lot of somatic responses in the body, something called bracing. It creates a heavy cocktail of hormones, cortisol. It puts the victim into a constant state of the parasympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system, which also includes freeze and fawn, which the victims live in a constant state of usually freeze and or fawn because of the abuse. It causes damage to the brain, and which manifests itself in what's called CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm laughing because when I before went blank on what the acronym stand for. But anyways, yeah, you're being very unloving to self by staying in those relationships and thinking you can endure them. Not saying not to love anyone, but you disengage from that. It is not healthy, and it's not helping the abuser. They're not getting better. They're not seeing the light by you allowing them to constantly abuse you and devalue you. Um, the narcissistic patterns of behavior are constant belittling and devaluing. Um, they are haughty and arrogant. They can never be wrong. They lack accountability, which is maybe not sounds so awful, but when they lack accountability, that means that the burden of everything is always on your shoulders, the victim's shoulders. They will do what's called gaslighting, which messes with your reality. They'll do what's called mind salad. The dog's about to get up. Someone's here, but it's so hard to live through. But one of the most devastating effects is what's called toxic shame. Okay, my daughter's home. I'm filming, Belly. So toxic shame is what creates feelings of lack and worthlessness within, Jesus, God, I almost knocked the computer down. That toxic shame is what creates feelings of worthlessness. And it's so hard, because imagine what the victim goes through when they feel worthless. It's hard to do anything. It's hard to live your dreams. It's hard to have dreams. It's hard to get out of goddamn bed sometimes, but they will physically drain you. They'll emotionally drain you. They'll spiritually drain you. You need to disconnect from these people. And that is not being unloving. It's actually being loving, because you're not enabling, you're showing someone what their patterns of behavior look like, believe me, you're not breaking through to them. They're in that fog, and they have to break through that. You can pray. God's the only one that can break through that. It's most psychologists won't. They don't even have hope for narcissists. You can look it up. Most of them say there's absolutely no hope for the condition, because they're so arrogant and so unaccountable that they see nothing wrong with themselves. So there's no need for change. It's really devastating, and it's a sad life for them too, but you don't want to stay hooked up with that. So I'm sorry, it's really long, but about getting to self-worth. So last night, for part of my, finding my worth was I was journaling, and I was doing questioning my beliefs. And so, we have, from the abuse and from, childhood patterns, we have this subconscious mind is running all the time. And it's, they say it's responsible for something like 94 to 97% of our decisions. And so we think we're using our frontal cortex, which is the reasoning, logical mind, but really only 3 to 6% or whatever, I can't do the math, is responsible for that. So you have to bring it to the forward mind with awareness, just like to recover, to get back to self-worth, because it is a recovery process like anything. So just like an alcoholic has to first admit that they're an alcoholic first, that means bringing awareness, and then they have to make the change. It's the same. You have to realize what your patterns are, what these beliefs are, so that you can bring them to your front mind, to your awareness, so that you can work through those patterns. So for today, I can't think of the word to use. The lesson or whatever is, he's making me nervous, my dog running around. Lay down, Bobby. Lay down. So it's about questioning your beliefs, and questioning, like asking yourself, like when you have these feelings of lack, whatever is not positive that you're feeling about yourself, question that and ask yourself where that belief comes from. A lot of times you'll hear your abuser's voice in your head. And so then you have to question, are they the authority? Are they the authority? Do they get to define who you are? You know, and use some logic. But so like just go through, and he's making me really nervous, and it's hard to finish this. But like some of the things that I heard were like, you're too sensitive, which I was born HSP, which is highly sensitive person. It's the overactive nervous system, which is actually a blessing because I can feel joy deeper and love deeper also. Um, you know, so if you're HSP or you've been called too sensitive, remember, you don't just feel pain deeper, you also feel the positive things deeper as well. But so like just so question core belief, like, okay, you're too sensitive. So where does that come from? From childhood. And so I was told by my family all the time, you're too sensitive, you're too sensitive. So then I have to question that belief. Like, could it be that maybe they weren't as sensitive? That's why they couldn't understand that I was more sensitive. Can I maybe look at it as it was actually a gift? That maybe it was just different than them and they didn't understand it. But that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me, that I have to feel shameful for feeling sensitive, which is actually insane to even think of it. That I should have to feel shameful for feeling feelings deeply, And then also, like having some empathy myself to think about, my family didn't know how to handle someone that had uh, extreme sensitivity. They weren't aware of how to handle that. So, and it was confusing for me, as a kid. Like, I didn't understand. I was feeling things deeper than other people. I thought everyone was feeling this, so it was confusing. So I can have empathy for that whole situation. Oh, here's a good one. It was, I'm a miserable cunt. So that's stuck somewhere in my head. Where did I hear that? I think you guys can probably figure that out. And then I can look and say, could that have been because that was a person in deep pain that was in fact miserable themselves? Yeah, I think so. That's most likely why they were doing what's called projecting onto me. So anyways, it's just about, sorry for all my sarcasm. So anyways, just today for your self-love, question your core beliefs, where these feelings of lack are coming from. And then, do this now while you're not triggered, and do it all the time, like do it often. Like, but also whenever like one of those thoughts pops into your head, write it down and then really journal about it and really question self, because that's how we bring things to awareness. And then when we question, we dig through that back subconscious mind, those faulty patterns, those faulty thinking patterns. So question those lackful beliefs to find out where they come from and squash them and change your core beliefs and fill them up with things, I'll talk another day about affirmations and meditation and mirror affirmations, yada, yada, yada. But so for today, question your lackful beliefs about self and figure out where they came from. Oh, that's what I was going to say too. Some of them, most of them are from childhood, and it's kind of funny even, some of them. If you really pay attention to what you're telling yourself, some of them are hilarious because they're rooted from childhood. So some of them are from when you're like 5 or 6 years old. And then you do layer on top of them because you have that core belief, and then you go out into the world and you sort of self-sabotage because you do that pattern matching. And so you keep like proving that same belief over and over again, but some of them, like if I get to the core, it's like hilarious because, back to treating yourself as a child, like, so we're the higher self, we're the observer, and we're looking down on this avatar, this being, this child of ours, and having compassion for, for their thoughts and pulling them through it though. Like you wouldn't leave a child feeling shameful and lackful, so don't do that to yourself. And that is where a lot of them are rooted in. So it's like, really hilarious, some of them that I have, that I've gone through, and I thought, like, it's like, it's a 5-year-old's thought about self, like some kind of shame that they should have never had. And then you layer it, and you layer it with going out there and proving it, and with your own internal narratives and that. So stop, bring awareness, question. All right, day 5. Woohoo! Let's love ourselves. Peace out.